And welcome to the regularly scheduled Arts, Parks, Entertainment, and Los Angeles River Committee, the first one of 2018. Happy New Year, everyone. My apologies, I was running a little late. I'm joined by my colleagues David Rue and Curran Price, and I would like to call this meeting to order. What I would like to do, colleagues, however, there are some cards here. There is one person who's filled out a card on every item, so we'll hear public comment first, and that is Wayne Spindler. And you'll have 2 minutes for all of your items, and then 1 minute for general public comment.
Very good. So, number one, Department of Cultural Affairs, another fee for the program. Fuck the fee. I don't need any more fees. There's no cultural affair. If you want art, you got plenty of art. There's a lot of tagging going around. That's art, and then you paint over it. That's all the art you need. Number two, Department of Cultural Affairs, retroactive applying for grants. Stealing is what this is. The Dia de los Muertos, I saw it. Looked like shit. Looked like somebody put up something that costs $5. You'll charge $100,000 for it. More stealing, more thievery, and it needs to stop. Then we get to item 3, which is, that involves CD6. And we had a presentation on the council floor today, as you saw earlier today, in honor of Nuri Martinez. The wheel fun rentals for the pedal boats. We don't need paddle boats, we need motor boats. You don't need a fucking paddle boat. You gotta have speed boats, high-speed boats, so that you can go, and when the homeless jump out at Lake Balboa at you in Echo Park, there's homeless with knives, which leads us into 4, because when you're on the lake and somebody approaches you with a weapon, you need to get the fuck out of there, and a high-speed boat is the answer, not a pedal boat. You can't get away from the people with a pedal boat. We need motorized boats on the lakes in Echo Park, Lake Balboa. Fuck all of this paddle boat shit. And then 4, we're going to have people from the LAPD talking about concerns of libraries and loitering. Translation, it's your homeless people. First, you can't live in a mobile home that's more than 22 feet long and more than 7 feet high. And who came up with that policy? Del Richardson and Associates, on their special report, came up with the idea to ban everybody from living in any vehicle. So now they go to the library, and the library provides internet and videos. Now you don't want them in the libraries. What the fuck are you going to do with the homeless if they can't go to the library and use the bathroom? Reading, taking a shit, and using the internet are human rights in 2018. Fuck the security. We need more libraries and keep them open 24 hours a day so they can take a fucking shit rather than in the bushes.
New year, same toxic behavior as last year. In evidence here by Mr. Spindler. Is Herman here? Because he has filled out a comment card for general public comment. He is not here, so that's that. What I'd like to do, colleagues, is take item 2 on consent, if there are no objections. So we're good on item 2. All right, that brings us to item 1, and I think we have a presenter in Felicia Filer from Department of Cultural Affairs. And let me just start by saying that when we unlocked the funds a couple of years ago for public art, along with this process.
Yes. Can I introduce it first?
Of course. My apologies.
We'll keep the record clear here. Item number 1, Department of Cultural Affairs to report relative to an amendment to the updated annual expenditure plan and fee status report for the Arts Development Fee Program for fiscal year 2017-18, scheduled pursuant to council action of December 12, 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton-Willis. I'm just over-eager today, I guess. we're talking about approving the administrative guidelines that we approved in 2014 as a council. And we further instructed at that point the department to brief and solicit input from all the council offices before the final report would come out and be adopted by council each year. And that was specifically designed so that all of the council offices would be outreached to on these biennial projects. So I just wanted to put that out there for the record and in relation to the arts development fee. So if you have a presentation to make.
Thank you. Felicia Filer, Director of Public Art Cultural Affairs. So at the December 12th, 2017 City Council meeting, the Arts, Entertainment, Parks, and River Committee report relative to the updated annual expenditure plan and fee status for the Arts Development Fee Program for FY 17-18 was scheduled and adopted by Council. At that meeting, Councilmember Blumenfeld introduced an amending motion to the ADF program current LA Public Art Biennial Report titled Attachment B, and the amending motion removes the account number L838 from in the amount of $142,572.97 and includes account number J656 for the amount of $40,735.29. So today we are submitting a revised Attachment B, and this revised Attachment B report reflects the Councilmember Blumenfeld's amendment change to the report.
Terrific, thank you. Anything to add? Okay. Just to reiterate, DCA staff met and meets with every single council office in advance of the approval of this report, and that is accurate with this latest approval as well, all council districts. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how can you describe the level of involvement with each council office before these projects are approved?
Well, in terms of developing the expenditure plan?
Well, the biennial
biennial
projects.
So we will use a multi-pronged approach leading up to and during the biennial to involve the council offices. Beginning with each council office will be invited to attend an upcoming meeting tentatively scheduled for late February to announce the evaluation and the findings from the first biennial, as well as announce the launch of the second edition. And then following this meeting, we will meet with each council office to brief them individually on the specifics of the first biennial. We've created a visual presentation, and our evaluation will give us a profile of exactly what occurred in each council district. We also have a kickoff stakeholder meeting. It's a roundtable meeting for all city families that will be involved in current, where we present information about the public art selection process, the curatorial process. We announce the RFQ release dates for some of the smaller art commissions, public programs, call for calendars. All of that information is presented at the kickoff meeting. We also will present a set of the identified sites and locations for the initiative, and we also have a questionnaire that goes with that site. So we're asking each council office and city department to give us any feedback on those sites if there's any constraints that we need to be aware of. And so we also request that at least the council office identify at least one person to serve as our point person throughout the biennial, so we can have a clear channel of communication. And then once the specific location has been settled upon, we'll meet again with that council office to let them know where the event is going to be taking place in their district. As we develop our marketing materials, we will send each council office materials so they can help in the distribution. And we'd also like to have the council office link up to our social media channels so that we can help them amplify, they can help us amplify our messaging about current and possibly get involved in social media takeovers. So we think that this multi-pronged approach during the planning, leading up to and during the event will adequately involve the council offices.
Thank you. And do you have, from each of the 15 council offices, do you have that one point person identified already?
We do not.
In relation to this biennial program? Not yet.
We do not. At the kickoff meeting, we will ask them to identify someone.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions about this item? So I will concur, and what we'll do is we'll adopt the amending motion along with the Department of Cultural Affairs revised Attachment B, as you stated. And it's dated January 10th, 2018. as part of the updated annual expenditure plan and fee status report for the arts development fee for fiscal 2017-2018. Yeah, without objection, that'll be the order.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to item 3, Mr. Sutton-Willis.
Item number 3, City Administrative Officer and Recreation and Parks reports relative to an agreement with Freetime Incorporated or Wheel Fund Rentals for the operation of Pedalboat concessions at Echo Park Lake and Lake Balboa.
So it's free time and Wheel Fund Rentals. Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right. Please, Mr. Rudnick, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. I'm Jason with the CEO's office. There are 2 reports on this item. The first report is a CEO report recommending approval of the Pedalboat rental concession agreement with Free Time. Subsequent to the release of our report, the department submitted a report with a revised agreement with the proposed contractor on January 5th, 2018. The revised agreement with the proposed contractor lowers certain boat rental rates. At this time, our office is recommending that the committee note and file our report and approve the department's most recent report with a revised agreement with Freetime Incorporated.
And just to add to my colleague, what Jay said, essentially, when our board took action as a result of an RFP to award a new contract to a new operator for pedal boats at Echo and at Lake Balboa, we were given authority to actually negotiate with Wheel Fund on the price that a patron would pay for a pedal boat. There was some concern both from your office and Nuri Martinez's office in terms of the rates being unaffordable if we were to raise them. And so we did have a really good session of negotiations with Wheel Fund, and the prices as proposed in the revised agreement will go up from $10 for an adult for an hour to $11, so $1, and from $5 to $6 for a child. And the benefit, while it will only go up by $1, we will be receiving roughly twice the revenue back to Rec and Parks from the concessionaire. So we're very pleased with the outcome of negotiations. And as Jay mentioned, Rec and Parks didn't transmit that revised agreement to the CAO for their report. So what's before you is the revised agreement and a revised fiscal impact statement for your approval.
What was the price before the revised agreement?
Sure. They were proposing in their actual proposal as part of the RFP process to go from a per person rate structure to a per boat rate structure. So it would actually go from $10 for an adult to actually $25 for a 2-person boat with a lap child, or $35 for a 4-person boat with a lap child. We were concerned that if we had a single rider or a single rider with a child, they would be paying only $15 currently, but it might go up to $25, and we felt that difference would be a little bit too substantial. So that's why we went into negotiations and came out with the new price structure.
Makes sense. Thank you. And do you have a sense of the usage of these paddle boats at each location?
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
I don't have in front of me the numbers, but we certainly have, just based on the revenue recorded, and also we actually ask for monthly statements in terms of participation. Yeah, it's especially at Echo, it's gained quite a lot of popularity, and we're seeing a lot of riders these days.
Increase.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to tell increase year over year.
Oh.
How long is this contract for with Will Fund?
Sure, this is a 5-year
5,
term with
okay.
1 5-year option to extend.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Price, any other questions? Okay. All right. So, well, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. So we'll adopt the Recreation and Parks report along with the revised agreement with Free Time Will Fund Rental, Inc. for the operation of the pedal boat rental concession. It is pedal boat, not paddle boat.
Correct, pedal.
Right. That is like a forever kind of back and forth. What's it? Is it pedal or paddle? So it's pedal boats.
We'll be pedaling.
And it's a lot of fun if you haven't done it. I'll host you at Echo Park Lake anytime you want to visit.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.
Mr. Chair, are you also agreeing to note and file the CAO report?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that brings us to item 4.
Item number 4, a motion, Martinez Rule Englander, relative to analysis of safety and security incidents reported and observed at Los Angeles Public Library facilities for 2017, and possible enhancements to the current security deployment plan to address the escalating safety concerns at library facilities, and restricting loitering on library grounds and installing security measures that library staff can access in an emergency situation.
Thank you. And before Mr. Zabo and Mr. Palazzolo begin, we do have a letter from Mary Martinez's office. Is there anyone here from that office? Yes? If you could please step forward. Thank you. Oh, there's a place here.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Arcelia Arce with Councilwoman Mary Martinez's office. She submitted a letter. I'm going to read it for the record. Dear members of the Arts, Entertainment, Parks, and River Committee, thank you for scheduling Councilmember Rue's and my motion regarding public library safety. I'm a proud champion of our public library system, not only in the 6th District, but across Los Angeles. Recent reports, however, have pointed to a rise in lewd and illegal behavior in and around city libraries in front of staff, parents, and children. Libraries are supposed to be for learning, not lewdness. No parent should ever have to worry that their child will be exposed to lewd acts. As a city, we need to step up and put a stop to this and give our libraries the funding and resources they desperately need to make them safe again. I respectfully request that this committee request that LAPD and Los Angeles Public Library review the role of LAPD and contract security play in monitoring our library facilities, what role LAPD vice officers can play in activities occurring immediately outside the library, the possibility of establishing no loitering zones near library facilities, and what security measures, for example, panic buttons, can be installed in the city's libraries in order to ensure the safety of our librarians. In addition, we should be looking at how we can prioritize these issues as we begin planning for next fiscal year's budget. Thank you once again for considering this matter, and I look forward to working with you to develop solutions to this issue.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, and gentlemen, before we start, I'm gonna ask your indulgence on something else. I'd like to take the public comments. We have 3 first, and that is first from 2 rather, from, is it Rocks Stone? Is it? Well, okay, how about Teresa Sanchez? That would be you. And we'll let Mr. Stone speak once he gets here after the presentation. We'll do it that way.
Good afternoon, council members, chair and committee members. Teresa Sanchez, AFSCME District Council 36. I represent the Librarians Guild, and we also represent Local 3090 Clerical and Administrative Unit, library clerks, etc. I wanted to thank you. I also thank Councilmember Martinez for putting forward this motion. We also are very concerned about safety and security issues for patrons and the public in general, as well as city staff. We've had discussions with department management as well as the police department. I just wanted to highlight one issue that I think we have to have a deeper discussion on. Ms. Martinez's letter alludes to the issue of contract security staff versus LAPD security staff. I think we have to have a very much deeper discussion on adequate security staffing in the libraries. And one of the issues that I've discussed with LAPD in the past is their difficulty in filling all of their security services vacancies. And we think that's part of the problem. And we think we have some creative solutions so how we can address that. We really just again wanted to emphasize the difference in the quality of service between civil service security officers that are trained, supervised, and managed directly by LAPD versus security, contract security staffing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, gentlemen, did you want to have opening remarks or say? Please, Mr. Zabo.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue. I think it's fair to say that these issues are always a challenge. We're a very open and welcoming institution. We have 73 libraries across the city, 9 of which are open 7 days a week, 64 open 6 days a week, 13 million visits annually. Certainly, incidents do occur. This is an issue that I think public libraries, large and small, face across the country. But I think we deal with it in a very proactive way. We've increased significantly the resources that we in the library allocate towards security services, both in partnership with LAPD and other security measures and training and improvement, things like that. Our partnership and our level of communication with LAPD personnel is excellent, ongoing, regular, and very, very open. Just to highlight some of those things that we have done in the library, over the last 4 years, we have increased our budget for security almost sixfold. Going into the next fiscal year, it'll be about $6.8 million. We have 77 dedicated individuals, both full and part-time LAPD security services personnel, as well as contract security. Also, an additional 8 senior lead officers that spend a portion of their time at our libraries. We have a budget for overtime for sworn officers for our libraries. Also, in the last 4 years, we've gone from 9 of our libraries with security camera systems all the way to all of our libraries as of last late summer or early fall when we had security cameras in all of them. Additionally, we have worked with the County Department of Mental Health to come in and help do some training with our staff in terms of interacting with some of our population that improves customer service and improves the library environment. Panic buttons were mentioned. We've for some time had panic buttons in all of our libraries. That's very, very important. And we're always in dialogue with LAPD. Certainly we're in dialogue with union leadership as well and our staff about other things that we can do to improve the situation and to make certain that our libraries are as safe as they possibly can be, both not only within the 4 walls of the library, but certainly the perimeter and the library property, library parking lot, and of course more broadly in the neighborhoods that our libraries reside in.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, honorable members. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background first, how we got here, where we are today, and how LAPD is involved in this situation and in making sure that our libraries are safe and welcoming places. So the Department of General Services Office of Public Safety was merged into the LAPD in 2013. The LAPD had always had the responsibility for police response and safety at these libraries, as it is for all institutions in the city. The only thing that changed with the merger, and is outlined in an MOA with the library, is the fixed post security positions assigned to the Central Library are now reporting to Security Services Division Command. The LAPD also provides the library department with a list of outside security firms that have been vetted by the LAPD and are under contract with the city to provide security services on an as-needed basis to the library as well as other departments in the city. The libraries department can hire from these contractors and place security officers at libraries that have a need. As a result of factors that have emerged in the last couple of years, the library department also hires police officers that are most familiar with the issues in that particular area. These are senior lead officers, you may be familiar with them, on an overtime basis to provide additional security at some of the locations. The LAPD and the library department meet at least once a month to discuss emerging security and safety issues and make recommendations as to where security officers or police officers patrols should be deployed. The business relationship and the public safety partnership with the library department has always been very good and one of cooperation. The current number of LAPD security officers that work for the city that are assigned to Central Library is 6 supervisors, 24 full-time, and 11 as needed or part-time. Additionally, the library currently hires approximately 26 private security contractors and have them assigned at 28 other branches approximately, and that can change from month to month. Another 8 LAPD security officers are in a roving patrol citywide that check on library properties. Police officers that work at the overtime details that I mentioned earlier at the library average 1 supervisor and 8 officers per day, and that's usually on Monday through Saturday. Security Services Division also has a cadre of 8 full-time senior lead officers. They divide the city among the 8 of them and are ambassadors to libraries and parks assigned to each of them. Their job is to interact, attend meetings, and strategize to solve problems with the library department as well as local geographic area SLOs, so they work in close partnership when problems are identified. We've taken a deep dive into the current state of security at the library system and identified gaps that could be improved. In our analysis, we looked at data for the last 7 years, including reported incidents of crime and how many times police have been called to each of the 73 libraries. The library system, as Mrs. Zabo mentioned, encompasses 73 branches citywide, and last year had more than 13 million visitors. The total number of crimes reported last year at our libraries were 507. Most of these crimes were property related, like theft, vandalism, trespass. Very few, only 13 out of the 507, were crimes that were serious offenses like assault or robbery. The libraries remain some of the safest spaces in the city, as you can tell by the numbers and number of visitors. Conversely, the police department responded to 2,329 calls for service at our libraries last year. That's approximately 45 calls per week, which equates to less than 1 call per week at each library. Obviously, some libraries had significantly more calls than others. Nonetheless, there are gaps that have been identified, and as new factors emerge that are affecting new factors that have emerged that are affecting our public safety. Some of these factors are real, some of them are perceived. Our analysis showed that there was a significant uptick in both crimes and calls for service from 2014 to 2015. This jump coincided with legislative changes that also affected crime rates throughout the region. Like crime throughout the region that year, between those 2 years, the numbers have now steadied and are now more consistent year to year. Additional factors that may have caused an increase during those years include ongoing training that the police department through Security Services Division has given to library employees as to the appropriate action to take when confronted with certain situations, which encourages employees to call the police, make a report, and when appropriate, effect a citizen's arrest. Additionally, with the passage of Measure L, which took full effect during those years, libraries became more funded and remained open longer and remained open for more days, which likely had an effect on the more calls for service or reported crimes. During this period, we also saw a significant increase in the homeless population and an increase of people with mental illness living in the streets. We support and are committed to the idea that libraries be safe and welcoming space for all. Many of the homeless people we interview have told us that one reason they hang out at the library is exactly for that reason. They know nobody will hurt them there. However, with that plus comes other problems that are unintended. We are adjusting our strategies to address those factors and have been working with the library department to ensure our libraries remain safe, friendly, and welcoming spaces for all. Some of those strategies include additional resources that have been deployed in coordination with the Office of Special Operations and Office of Operations in the LAPD at the 6 most problematic libraries, specifically to address issues of loitering, narcotics use and sales, lewd and prostitution activity. The Mental Evaluation Unit of the LAPD has been deployed to work with the library staff and Department of Mental Health to identify specific issues and individuals that may need intervention. These are in conjunction with the already in-place systems that Mr. Zabo talked about that the library has with Department of Mental Health to provide services to those in need. Additionally, the LAPD Mental Evaluation Unit is providing training to librarians about how to recognize and communicate de-escalate situations and availability of resources and referrals. Our HOPE teams are also engaged and are working with providers to do outreach to the homeless population around libraries. The library department also has systems in place to provide referrals, and they have regular ongoing activities where service providers come into the libraries to do outreach to the homeless population. And we support those efforts and work with those efforts. The LAPD, along with the library department, are working with the City Attorney's Office Neighborhood Prosecutor Program to ensure that criminal violations are pursued and stay-away orders or banning letters are enforced. All neighborhood prosecutors citywide have been directed by their office to form a relationship and liaise with each library in their assigned area to understand their issues and needs and how to best support the employees there. Additionally, the City Attorney's Office is developing a new ordinance specifically to address repeat offenders of library rules that are issued ban letters. The Library Department, in consultation with the LAPD, has developed a new automated tracking system of incidents that occur over the libraries. This will enable the Library Department and us to better understand the issues that are going on in each library and how we can better respond. And when I talk about incidents, they may include crimes, but more often than not, the majority of them are not crimes but rule violations that will give us a better idea of what takes place at each library. Within the LAPD, a new internal system of sharing information such as daily deployment and crime information at each of the libraries has been developed to ensure the geographic areas and specialized divisions have a situational awareness and a coordinated strategic response to the issues. Additionally, specific issues rising to the level of vice and narco investigations ensure that an official investigation is started so that the entity conducting the investigation has a minimal number of side checks that must be conducted. Supervisors and watch commanders have also been designated to conduct at least 3 daily supervisor checks at each of the problematic libraries to ensure that the deployed resources, the additional resources, are performing to expectation and the problems noted are addressed without delay. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Captain. And you mentioned 73 libraries in the system. You mentioned 7 libraries.
6.
Was it 6 that have sort of the greatest burden of maybe narcotics, lewd, criminal activity, or do I have that number wrong?
So there are 6 libraries that are identified as the most problematic. Interestingly enough, some of them have that reputation by stigma or by complaints, not by actual reported crime or calls for service. However, there is a significant, in many of these libraries, they're associated with a significant homeless population that either live around them or hang out around them. Although, and that's what I say, some of it is perceived, as I mentioned earlier, because there's homeless people hanging around them. Sometimes it's being perceived as being a problematic library, and we get a lot of community complaints. But the data, including the call data and the crime data, do not necessarily support that.
So I would imagine that many libraries, probably the vast majority of libraries, have little or no problems associated with them, like ever or seldom.
Correct.
But there are the so-called problem libraries. So my question is the security detail, and it's a combination of private security and contracted security services, and the LAPD, et cetera, is the attention to these libraries where the most problems are, is it commensurate with the security detail? Is the focus commensurate with the problem locations? In other words, if you have one library that's at the urban core, and I can give you the Hollywood Library on Cahuenga as one of the areas that has a large homeless population,
Yes.
continually roving around it or going inside, etc. But you step inside the library and it's pretty great, and I've been there many, many times. Nonetheless, if that is one of the problem locations, do you have greater security there than you do at a library in rural Granada Hills, for example?
Yes. That is one of the libraries that's been identified as one of the more problematic libraries, and not necessarily because of the calls for service or the crime. As you mentioned, our libraries on the inside are very safe for the most part. We do have incidences from time to time, as does the rest of the city and any other institution. So there are issues that occur from time to time. But inside, it is a safe place. Outside, in the immediate environment is also safe, but around those some certain areas, that library being one, there are issues. A lot of them have to do with homeless population that live around that area, and we do deploy heavier because of complaints. Number one, complaints, because of people that loiter around there, and because of recent notoriety about that specific location. But as far as crime is concerned and calls for service, it is not significantly higher than some other equivalent libraries. But there are some libraries where we get 0 calls and we've had no reported crime.
Right. In other words, my question is, are you putting the services where they're most needed?
We
as
feel
opposed.
we are.
Okay.
Yes, we
And
feel
that's
we
been
are.
the focus. And for you, Mr. Zabo, what do you think are the long-term and short-term security needs just from the library's perspective? And I'm very aware of the notoriety from the undercover news outlet work that was done. But I also know that it's been a lament for much longer than this notoriety, the recent notoriety, about bad conduct, lewd conduct, maybe narcotics conduct at some of the libraries. That's not a new issue, that claim. Even this motion by Mr. Rue and Ms. Martinez talks about something that was introduced about a year ago, highlighting the increased number of reports on public safety issues. So, taking that into account, what's your perspective on short-term and long-term security needs?
Sure. First of all, just in response to the previous question, yes, we absolutely do not take a formulaic approach to allocation of security, and certainly rely a great deal on LAPD in determining where those problem areas are. I think going forward, we've been very fortunate in recent years with the Measure L dollars, not only to expand our hours of service and do all sorts of wonderful things in the arena of library service, but it has provided us with the dollars to increase the security presence and to deal with some of these issues and deal with them effectively, both with LAPD as well as other activities that we're doing to address them. I think it's making certain that we use this new reporting system that we have, where we've gone from paper to an online reporting system, and we've developed that in partnership with LAPD, and looking at that data and making certain that we're constantly aware of where those problems are. And it's about our own staff making certain that they are communicating and completing those incident reports, and that we're being completely and totally transparent with LAPD and where those issues are, and allocating the resources necessary. And of course, it's a significant part of our budget, and I'm hopeful that what we've allocated now will be able to address the issue. But we stand ready to increase resources as we need to. Obviously, there's an opportunity cost there, but this is a tremendous priority for us. If you look at the budget that you'll consider for fiscal year 18-19, there's no category that is being increased more than this one. And we're fortunate that we have dollars to invest in other areas of the library, but it is a priority, and I think it's ongoing, continued, very close partnership and relationship with LAPD, and working to support them as they add positions, as they hire, working with the contract security companies, and training of contract security and training of our own staff as well is extremely important.
And would you say that since these news media reports from a couple of months ago occurred, would you say that the security personnel, including the police, are they like more on their feet, roving around, walking around, really keeping a closer eye on conduct that could be?
Yes. So although none of us were happy about that report, I think it really brought forth some gaps that we needed to address. So there was a benefit to it, and we welcome the criticism, and we've improved our systems. Many of the strategies that I talked to you about today have come as a result of that. So many things that have been done. One of the things that we did do in our libraries, generally our security officers, whether they're contract officers or they're city security officers, they do not have powers of arrest, and they're not trained in use of force or detention or anything of that sort. So their job was primarily to stand by the front desk to just be a visible presence. We changed that a little bit since then. We changed their post orders, where we now have them moving around inside and outside. Still not to be confrontational, because we don't want any of them getting hurt because they just don't have the training, but to be more proactive in calling a police unit if they see something, but moving around more rather than staying by the front desk where the librarian is usually at.
Right. Just because that, just eyes and ears on everything has a sort of a suppression component to it. Just, people are going to do things if they're being watched, things that they should be doing if they know that someone's watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. Mr. Root?
Go ahead. Yeah, thank you, John, for the report. And as you said, we do want to make sure, as these become increasingly neighborhood learning centers, we want them to be safe. We feel, accessible. You mentioned that, I guess, some years ago, you only had cameras in about 7 of the libraries, and now you say they're in all the libraries. Just kind of curious how that security system is being monitored. Is it internally? Is it just an outside source kind of reviewing those tapes? And is it really an active
That's a great question.
hybrid?
Right. So we had security cameras in 9 of our libraries, central, and 8 of our branches, and today we have them in all 73 of our libraries. The central library is the most actively monitored because we have a central security station there that is staffed, and those can be monitored. That we do have that security system. That is the one that is actually being replaced in the current fiscal year. That entire system. So that'll be a huge improvement. The security camera systems that we have in our branches are not actively monitored, but they serve as being able to provide a recording of an incident so that we can go back and the LAPD can look at it, neighborhood prosecutors can look at it, and we have that as documentation of an incident should it occur. And it also serves as a peace of mind thing for our staff, and just knowing that it's there and it's there to record. It's been good for staff morale, frankly, as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first want to really commend both the library and LAPD for your swift response. When we got alerted to that report, that NBC investigation, I mean, when we called LAPD, you guys were already on it. And thank you for your comprehensive report, Commander. It would be great to get that in writing. I know today was just actually assigning this to you, but it seems like you've already did it, and which is great. And I know our motion asks for, at least for the time being, a month-to-month report. So, I mean, you went over so many different aspects, and we would love to get that in writing so we could keep track of it. But I think this is the silver lining here is we just improve security for not just the patrons of the library, but also for our employees to make it a safer place. So I'm very encouraged of everything that's going on. Going forward, my office, as well as Council Member Nuri Martinez's office, would love to work closely with LAPD and the library, and as well as the staff and the labor unions to make sure that every aspect is addressed. But I think this is more than a great start. The budget cycle is going to come up again, and I know even before this report, both the library and LAPD was already looking into augmenting services, and especially in particular security. And then I know security is one of the larger budget items for the library. But it is a public facility. It is. I'm very proud of our libraries, and I love how it's more of a community center and one of the few remaining inviting places where people could go. So we want to make sure that it's safe. But this is very promising, and I think it's only going to get better. So I really appreciate everything you're doing. Love to get the monthly reports and everything that we're doing already.
Terrific. So what I'd like to recommend is approve the motion with the additional following instruction. Instruct the LA Public Library, with the assistance of the LAPD and the CAO, to report on strategies to improve safety and the overall experience at LA Public Libraries, including budgetary and programmatic recommendations for this council to consider. And the report can detail the coordination between Security Services Division, LAPD Patrol Services, with input from the public library, which you basically talked about extensively just now anyway, to be included in the report. And that is my instruction. Without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
And that brings us to item number 5, Mr. Sutton-Willis. Oh, is Roy here? Roy? Okay, sorry. Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. My name is Roy Stone. I was past president of the Librarians Guild and a city employee, now a retired employee, so member of the public. And yes, things are on the way to being improved, and we're really pleased about that. But it's not not as safe and secure as it sounded. So at any one time, I think there was like 13 incidents that were serious. It's a lot more than that. And I don't know if that's based on arrests or what, but I would like you to delve into that because there are incidents that happen. So you had a good experience at Golden Hollywood, which is great. But maybe a half hour later, two homeless, mentally disturbed people got into a fight. Maybe with a mother and daughter walking by them and seeing that. Are they going to come back to that library? Probably not. We need to make them safer all the time. So the motion is really important. We're really glad you're moving forward with this, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad you found your way to the
Yeah.
committee. It's a big building. And yeah, please stay. I'm sure you'll stay engaged. We appreciate your input and your advocacy, and we look forward to seeing this report back, and I know you all will as well. Yes.
If you just don't mind redoing the vote, just to incorporate the public comment.
Yeah, I didn't know Mr. Stone was here. Yeah, so we'll redo.
Just to take the vote
Yeah,
again
so
for the record.
I'm just going to restate that we'll adopt this with the stated additional instructions. We'll approve the motion. And without objection, that'll be the order then. Thank you, and that does bring us to item number 5.
Item number 5, motion Rue O'Farrell relative to improving the safety and security of visitors, preservation of wildlife and natural environment, enhancement of recreational facilities, mitigation of erosion and water runoff, and parking lot at the Runyon Canyon Park.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, honorable committee members. Joe Solisis, Superintendent with Department of Recreation and Parks.
Thank you. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. So I did get a chance to read the motion, and Recreation and Parks, of course, is committed to the highest level of recreational opportunities. I do intend to work with our maintenance crews to make sure that the park is safe for all of our visitors, and also to work with our Security Services Division from LAPD to help us to make sure that the gate is properly secured in the evenings, and also to increase our ranger presence. As you know, we, thanks to the good work of the City Council, we've been able to hire many park rangers now. It's a long process, so we're getting to the fruits of our labor as we start to see new rangers coming out of the academy, and thank you to LAPD for allowing us to use our academy. And one thing that we'll be doing is improving the services up there at Runyon Canyon. We have started doing weekend service by adding guards up in the parking area at Mulholland, which is a very busy location, as most of you know. So we'll continue to do that. And anyway, I'm open to questions if you have.
Terrific. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Rue to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Happy New Year, Joe.
Yeah.
It's the first time
Happy
seeing
New
it
Year.
this year. Thank you so very much. I mean, we've been to Runyon Canyon on several occasions, and I really appreciate the Recreation and Parks commitment to improving our parks. And especially at Runyon Canyon, we just did that new acquisition of additional land to expand, one of our most beloved parks in our city, and the largest open off-leash dog park.
That's correct.
As well, which is highly popular. And I know there's a lot of things that need to be done there, and I know we, especially with the new acquisition, the stairs, which is a liability. That's just, and I know it's going to cost some money when you guys do the analysis and everything, but it's in the long run, it's going to be cheaper than any potential incidents that could occur because we hiked it together. I did the Western Trail, which was the hard one, but
Got up there faster than I did.
yeah, but it's one of our precious gems, and it's about time that we looked into seeing what can be done to mitigate and enhancements, whether it be fencing, stairs, updating the stairs, restrooms, rerouting the upper park. Looking at the various parking lot options, but I really appreciate your commitment.
Thank you very much.
And speaking of parking, has funding been identified for the parking congestion plan?
We have not identified funding at this point, and I'll be searching funding sources for that. There is I think potentially though, once we do upstart that possibility, there's a good chance that we would have a revenue flow that will support some of our operations up there, like support rangers, support guards, things like that. But I do not have a funding source
new flow come from?
From a parking meter
Okay.
type situation where people would have to pay to park. I know it's kind of a reality in this neighborhood with Mulholland and all being so busy.
Yeah.
We've had our highly successful meters that have been placed up at the Griffith Observatory, and I could see perhaps Runyon may need that, but there's a lot of investigating that needs to be done, a lot of interaction with Council District 4 and the staff of Mr. Ruse, and also the community to make sure that this is the right move for us at this point.
Great. Thank you. Anything else? No, we're good. All right.
so
Well,
much.
without objection, we'll adopt the motion as is.
Look
And
forward to reporting back.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you, Joe. And I do believe that brings us to the end of the agenda.
Clear, sir.
All right. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.